We have a segment that I love very, very, very much. It's called God's Mistakes. Okay, let's see if I can get this out right, because I've fucked it up the last 3 times. Take a look at this child molester dressed as a nun. What are God's mistakes? He doesn't know. All he knows is how to get children in his basement so he can molest them. Great. So God's mistakes was a term a friend of mine came up with, and the idea she had is that when God was creating all these creatures, the really fucked up ones, he threw at the bottom of the ocean because, like, no one's ever going to see this shit. So this is my segment about the most effed up forms of life. And I bring you the first picture we have. That's right. It's something, here's the Latin name. It's called Orthosternarchus tamandua. And some of you might know what a tamandua is, and if you don't, I'll tell you at the end of this segment. Now, you can see that it has a fin on the bottom, and it has two, what's that called? Pectoral is side, dorsal is back, ventral fin, one long ventral fin. Is it the ventral fin? The ventral fin's in the back.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, yeah, anyway, so it's a type of knifefish. And you can see kind of why it's called a knifefish, because the face is kind of like a handle. And then you've got the caudalus tail. How am I not knowing the anatomy of a fish? This is embarrassing. It is ventral. But ventral means, anyway, the point is knifefish are a very, very interesting group. There's lots of different types of knifefish. They call this in the trade Mueller's white knifefish, right? However, and look at that coloration. When you have that kind of coloration where it's like almost albino, you can see the red blush by the cheek. That's always a function of low light, because in cave troglodytism is a term. When you have those cave fish, they lose their pigment because there's no use for the pigment, right?
Real quick though.
Yeah.
There you go. All the fins and stuff.
Anal fin, go down more. Pick it up. Pelvic fin.
Pelvic.
Is that the one elongated pelvic fin?
Yeah.
Because they have one fin that's stretched out, so I don't know if they're fused or it's the pelvic. Pelvic fins are paired. Oh, you fucked up. Don't go to that picture. God damn it. Okay. Anyway, these
could be a long anal fin.
Look up knifefish, because if you look up knifefish, it'll tell you what the physiology of a knifefish is. Their whole group this is something they all have in common. They don't have any dorsal fins, or they rarely have one small one, but they all have, except for the abba, whatever. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. They don't come from the sea. These come from the Amazon, and they live at depths of only 60 feet, sometimes only 30 feet. That's weird. But the Amazon reaches depths that are much deeper than that. Sometimes they can get 300 feet deep, but the Amazon isn't crystal clear. There's mud, there's sediment sloshing around, and rotting vegetation releases tannins in the water. In fact, there's something called black water extract. There are certain types of fish people have in their aquariums that come from the Amazonian system, and they need that tea-like color in the water, and you add it to the water, it makes it very acidic and like tea. Tannin, and it's made by this because of these tannins, which are organic molecules found in all sorts of plant tissues, which are not harmful because a lot of stuff that we have contains tannins. Wine, red wine, full of tannins. Tea, dark chocolate. If it's dark and tastes bitter, comes from a plant, it's probably got tannins in it, okay? So because of this, many rivers and streams in the Amazon basin are brown because of the bits of rainforest that fall in and rot over the years. And then you got 30 feet of depth, and you've got a very murky environment, right? What's the fin that the knifefish have?
The best I could find was pelvic fin.
Okay. That could be an elongated pelvic fin. Now, looks like a cavefish in a cave, and the eyes, they're barely there. And the other thing is the eyes have even become, and I couldn't get a good photo of this, slightly asymmetrical. One eye is a little further forward than the other. It is extremely rare for vertebrates to be asymmetrical. Obviously, our hearts are on one side, and we have things like that. But many invertebrates, like a good example, are lobsters, right? Lobsters have 2 claws. One is for gripping, and one is for cutting. They look completely different and have very different functions. Crabs, the crabs on the beach, the fiddler crabs, will have one giant claw and one small one. So can you leave the fish up? It's very odd to have that kind of asymmetry. But Knifefish, all of them don't really need eyes. When you're talking about a knifefish, the biggest knifefish in the world is something called the electric eel. Put up a photo of an electric eel, please. Thank you. Now, electric eels, like all knifefish, they're the strongest version of this. They have a electric field around them. And this is what they use to detect other life in the water. The electric eel obviously uses it in an offensive capacity, but knifefishes in general use it to kind of sense what's in the water around them as opposed to, there's the electric eel. You could see the fin takes up the entire length of the body. Where the fin starts at the left, that's its anus. So you've got like a very little bit of guts and head, and all the rest of that is battery and meat. You could see
junk in his trunk.
No, the junk is in the front by the vent. So, and these things can kill you or throw you across the room. At least they're very, very dangerous. They can be, and because of that, you can't have anything else in the tank with them. What's interesting about that with the knifefish is because they rely on electricity. When you have them in an aquarium, you could have a clear tube, and it'll stay in that tube. It thinks it's in a dark cave, and you could see it. So that's a good little trick to work your way around the knifefish. So let's go back to the mules. Yeah, the white knife. So they can't emit enough electricity to shock a crocodile or anything like that, like the electric eel does, but they can use it to communicate and for electrolocation, some call it. They could sense their surroundings with their eyes closed, and they can use it to find worms and other stuff in that little tiny mouth. He's kind of got that seahorse snout. And suck it into a tiny mouth at the end of a long snout. And that's why they're called tamandua as the species name, because tamandua is anteater in South America's Tupi language, and tamanduas are also anteaters that live in the trees. Now we've got two footage of these. You've got to see what these look like when they swim. Pop that first video. See, you have to keep them with a sandy base, and they eat worms. But if you notice, it's kind of like it's not looking around. It's using its electric field. And you see that one fin is all they use to locomote, and they can move pretty much the same speed forward and backward, which not many fish can do. They are they're extremely rare. I think they're pretty expensive. Then we got another video of them. God, they're so cool looking. They're so cool looking. And the thing is, you have one in your house. Everyone's like, "What is it?" I've never had one, but it's like like a monster. Yeah, that's with some little. They also fluoresce a little bit. I mean, they look like ghosts. Isn't that amazing? It's just, I think it's absolutely hypnotic. Now, there's also relatives. Let me tell you about another knifefish. There's something called a thermometer knifefish, and it's called a thermometer because it's shaped like a thermometer, and this is called Gymnor hapichthys rondoni. Let's show a picture of this. You could see its face. They've also got that snout. These live inside the sand. So unlike the tamandua where it's on top looking for stuff in the dirt, these actually are sand burrowers. So it's kind of like those snakes that live in the desert, those sand vipers. Let's play a video of these. Here's a tank of them, some of them not doing so hot, and some of them doing pretty good. But yeah, they burrow, and they're just sand divers. It's really sad because they need to be able to go deep in the sand, and they can't. So these are miserable and kind of lying on the surface and are not healthy. So yeah, you can see they're trying to bury themselves. And because if you live in the sand, you can detect electricity from other life forms, so you could tell the difference between something that's organic and alive and something that is dead. So knifefish are very, very cool. The most common knifefish people get are called clown knives, and I think they suck. They're not that interesting at all. Oh, damn, we're almost out of time. Holy shit. Okay, so